Welcome to one of the big highlights of the Dusseldorf Boat Show. Behind me here is the brand new Sunseeker Superhawk 55. Now, we have been waiting years to see a new Superhawk, and finally it is here. Now, it's not quite like the Superhawk of old, the long, thin, super quick boats. It's more of an open, not exactly day boat, but it's very much for living life out in the open. It's a little bit beamier than the boats of old. It has IPS power, so it's got a pair of Volvo IPS 950 pods with 725 horsepower each. But just look at that styling. Now, this is a really good looking boat, and we are going to give you the full tour, show you inside and out, into the engine room, absolutely everything. But just drink in those gorgeous lines. Now, you can have that with or without the hardtop. You can have it as a totally open boat, or you can have it with that T-top style hardtop that just lets the breeze come straight through it, and you can have a sunroof in there too if you want. But that is a sight I have long been looking forward to seeing. So let's drop down, have a closer look, and really get into the meat of it. Now, pricing for this starts at 1.395 million ex-VAT. Doubtless you're going to add a few extra options and so on there. I'm sure it's going to be more like a £1.5 million boat by the time you've finished. But nevertheless, remarkably, this is now the entry-level Sunseeker. But I think that is underselling it. This is a very serious piece of kit. So let's jump on board and have a proper look. Big bathing platform. Now, this is hydraulic, and that drops down and reveals the garage, but I'll show you how all of that works in a minute. Let's go up and take a look at the cockpit first. Now, check these out. Very stylized honeycomb effect vents. We've got the fair leads for the ropes and the shore power, but I love the way that whole thing has been integrated into a really stylish aft end. It almost looks like massive exhaust pipes on a supercar or something, but cleverly they've managed to make it look stylish while still actually serving a practical purpose. Now, as you step up, there's steps either side. You can see we've got these stainless steel gates, and again we've got that flag motif on those gates with the 55 etched into it. And then you can see that those fair leads come through, got a big cleat and a winch for the aft mooring gear. Now, there is an option to have additional cleats down here. We've got small ones right on the stern here, but you can have extra cleats on this side if you need a stern mooring cleat higher up on the boat. Under the aft end of this sunbed is a very clever stowage space for a pair of C-bombs. So you can see they just slot neatly in under there, and that is above the actual garage. So underneath, there's another layer underneath this. We can't show it here at the show because what happens is that whole hydraulic stern platform has to lower because the garage is actually at water level, and then the Williams mini jet slides out over that platform and into the water. But effectively, it's a double-decker garage with the C-bobs on the top deck and a Williams mini jet underneath. Very clever solution. So one of the clever things about this aft stern bed is that it can face a number of different ways. So you can have it laid out as a full sun pad like that, but also these mid cushions lift up. It's very simple, but it's a manual system. It props up like that, but it also goes all the way. So if you want to use it as a backrest when you're sitting at the table, then you've got a really comfortable seating arrangement there. Now, the table itself also pretty clever. You can see that that's on a high-low system. You can also see that that whole thing opens up, folds out, and then slides across. So you have a much bigger table there if you want it. And then you'll also note that these seats here are actually on runners. And the reason for that is you can set them more or less how you want. So if you have it in this mode, they're obviously all the way back, gives you maximum possible space and movement. But if you lift this button here, that unlocks it, and then the whole thing very simply slides forward into space there and locks in. And now you obviously need to lift the table a bit, but you can see that you can have that all as a compact seating unit. You can lock it off wherever you want to. So you can put it like that, and that's probably ideal for actually sitting at a table. Obviously the table comes up when you want to do that, or you can make it all into one big sun pad area. So really clever, versatile use of space. And the other benefit is when you move it forward, you've obviously got a walkway down the side, and then you've got storage either side of these cockpit. So the other very noticeable thing is that this is what we call a full beam cockpit. And that means there are no side decks down the side. And the reason for that is you just get a much beamier cockpit. So the full width of the boat is all used for accommodation. Normally you lose a chunk of it to the side decks. And when you've got one each side and a 2-foot wide side deck, you've suddenly lost 4 feet. This way, you can keep all the space inside the cockpit for socialising. And on a 55-foot boat like this, it makes a big, big difference. So really clever how that's done. But the smart thing is how they've managed to integrate that and still get access to the side deck. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Now over here, we've got a wet bar. You can see that under here we've got, is that an ice maker or a fridge? There we go, that's the ice maker. We have fridges under here. I'm not sure if it's fully equipped. I don't think it is yet. We've just got storage under there at the moment and lots of dressing. There's the fridge itself. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to shift those. I'll see if I can just slide that across. But you can see we've got a Kenyan grill under there. We've got a high-low television that sinks down from there. Lots of little storage buckets on either side. I think that's a draining storage area, so you can fill that full of ice and put a couple of bottles of wine in there if you want to. Obviously that TV drops down, and then the helm station is in front of that. And this is a really cool business-like section. So we've got 3 seats, all again with that flag motif just almost embroidered into there. 3 seats across, all with flip-up bolsters. And then this entire helm unit, you'll see this is actually right in the middle of the boat. So rather than having it offset to one side, it is absolutely dead central. So the helmsperson is right at the center of the action. And it's a really cool setup. So we've got the wheel itself, we've got the throttles, we've got the bow thruster and the Volvo Penta joystick. So this is an IPS boat. So those steerable pods at the back of the boat means you can absolutely put it where you want. You can go sideways, you can go forwards, you can twist it round. And then this fantastic layout here. So we've got twin Garmin screens on either side. We've got Volvo, Sunseeker's own systems here. So you can check, we've got it on tanks at the moment, but we can have a look at the battery and the electrics. We can have a look at the anchor lights, the blowers by the looks of things. We've got, these are all the lighting. So really nice to have those all on a separate screen rather than trying to have to switch off or lose your navigation. You get access to it all instantly there. And then these 2 dials here, we've got revs on the outer ring, and then this little unit here, you can see when I turn that, it flicks through and you can put whatever you want on there. So whether you want, it looks like it's on, we're on settings at the moment, but you can see you can have knots in there, you can have speed, you can have it displaying whatever you want. Fuel burn, got a couple of blowers, keep you cool. And then as well as these being navigation, you've obviously got the Seakeeper stabilizer on here, you've got the Lumishore lights, all the navigation. You can of course put all the repeat for the engine and fuel and so on. So really smart helm system. The seats do have a little bit of adjustment fore and aft, but not a great deal. And then you've got the hardtop overhead. Now this you can have fitted out with a sliding sunroof. You have a glass sunroof and that lifts up and slides back, or indeed you don't have to have a hardtop at all. You can have it as a pure open boat if you want to. But this is what I wanted to show you, these really clever side doors. So I said it was a full beam cockpit, and that is the door that gives you access out and onto it. So you can see when that's closed, you have really good protection. So a tall windscreen. This is just about head height for me up here, and that goes all the way around, single piece screen, so you're very, very well protected at the helm. So even when you're cracking along at 38 knots, you're not going to get too much wind blast. But then these doors here, you can see if you pull that down, and then you can see these big pantograph hinges swing round, and that whole door slides back there. Now I think that is going to tuck away a little bit more neatly. They just need to do a bit of fine tuning on those hinges. But this gives access out onto the foredeck, or the side deck should I say. You can see you've got side cleats here for your springs, then a couple of steps up, but really good tall protection from these bulwarks. So very nice protected walkway up onto that foredeck area to a huge sun pad. Now, as you can see, this is within the moulding, so it's quite well protected. And there's quite a clever system going on here, which I should be able to show you if I can just move these cushions. So at the moment it's set up as a full-length sunbed, and then you get a little seat area here. But in fact, this whole section, I think, slides. If I can just show you that. I'm not sure I can do it with one hand actually, but what you can see is that that whole section slides forward, locks into place in line with that, and then you have a walkway through there, so that this part of the sun pad here can be used as a seating area. So if you want a more sort of sociable seating space, you have opposed seating, got seats here, seats there, you can sit there, have a little drink on the floor deck. When you want to really soak up the sun, you slide it back and then have a really long, full-length sunbed. So quite a clever solution. It gives you the best of both worlds. You get a huge sun pad and you get a nice sociable seating area. Now, interesting to see that even in the deck here, there's a couple of LED lights set within that. That's a hatch giving a bit of light down into the cabin below. And then access to the deck gear under these little lifting panels. There we go. There is the anchor windlass, and that is a through hull anchor. You can see that runs straight out through the bow there, so it keeps it all neatly tucked away. And then anchor locker and chain and so on is under that panel there, and you can see all the chain down there. So again, keeps it very nice and clean and tidy. It doesn't spoil the aesthetic at all. You can have it as a perfectly usable socialising space without, oh, I've got to put that down in the right way. I went down too early with the wrong one. So obviously there is a sequence to that. That one needs to go down first, close up, then that one, and that closes up. So clever to be able to keep that really nice and clean, but also have all the practicality you need. And then, here we go. So that's a little USB. That is controls for the stereo, and that is the lighting. So again, lots of functionality to this foredeck area. And then as we come back, this is that side deck again. So you can see what happens when the door is closed. When it comes to the end of this side deck area, you've got those big inlets, air inlets for the engine room, and a rather stylish Superhawk logo set into that window. So even from this side, you can see you can also swing open that door in exactly the same way and come back into the cockpit. And lock it back into place. So very clever, very versatile way of doing it. You get the benefits of a full beam cockpit, but also nice protected access out onto those side decks. There we go. So let me just see if we can show you the engine room. Slide those back into that position. Might need to slide that one back a little bit. lift up that hatch, and then we can make our way down into the engine room. Now that is a fairly steep ladder with stainless steel tread plates, and here are the two engines. So they're Volvo IPS 950, so I think that's 750 horsepower each. I'll double check that, but you can see they are the IPS drives. It's quite tight down here, and that's because we've got that tender garage where the Williams Mini Jet lives just above the engines here. We've got the pods further back. Don't know if I can give you a look. Back there, you can see there are the blanking plates for the pod drives, so they go behind the engines, and that should give you a top speed of somewhere between 36 and 38 knots. I think slightly depending on how full the boat is in terms of fuel and so on, but certainly with half tanks, they're getting 38 knots. Really good performance. It's not full Superhawk like the old really super thin ones that were doing upwards of 45, 50 knots, but still good fast cruising with good efficiency and refinement. But admittedly a fairly tight engine room. Everything packaged. You can see under here is the generator. That looks like a Cummins generator. I think it's 11 kilowatts. And right further aft, if I can just get my camera around there, you can see the Seakeeper stabilizer sort of between the two pods. So it should make for a really civilized cruising machine. You've got stabilization, you've got IPS drives, which tend to be more refined and more efficient, and you've got generator all packaged in there. So quite a clever bit of packaging, but inevitably it is quite busy down there. But once you open up that tender garage, if you do need better access for servicing, there is an access panel under that tender garage. So there we go, that is the engines. So this being an open boat, there is in fact a sliding access to the companionway. So you can see that slides all the way across there. Really quite heavy, needs a bit of a shove. And then you drop down into this lower saloon. And what's so interesting about this is how much space they've given to this saloon area rather than to the cabins. And that's because it's very much a day boat. So what they envisage is a space that people want to come down. And a lot of the time on these big open boats, you come down and it's all a bit cramped and it's all a bit hot and you don't really want to be here. But on this, they've given it a load more space and crucially, a load more light. So if you look above me here, there's a whole layer of windows there at eye level, and then up above there's this fantastic skylight, which is actually in the shape of part of the Union Jack. If I crouch down low, you can probably get a bit of a feeling. It's sort of half a Union Jack. We've got the individual stripes and it's got LED lights inset into that. So day or night, it's beautifully lit down here. There's a big wide space. This sofa over on the starboard side is really deep. You know, they could so easily have had a thin little, slightly measly sofa, but really big, deep lounging space. I mean, look how wide that is. And then you've got this second layer of window in the hull itself here. And what you can do, in fact, this is so deep that if you want to, you can actually have this a little bit shallower and have more storage behind, but it just gives that added feeling of space to spare. Now we've got the galley over on the port side. And again, got the two decks of windows and a really modern, futuristic galley. Got this kind of turned stainless steel handles, little mini dishwasher, got an oven down there. We've got storage under there, a 4-burner induction hob, big sink, and then the fridge freezer over here. And what they are going to do, they are in fact going to have put a little split in there so that you can open the fridge or the freezer rather than opening the whole thing at once. But also good to see that they have bothered to put little locks on that just to hold that shut in a seaway. And then there's another tiny little bit of storage under there. Access hatches through the deck everywhere, so you can get down into the bilges, access shower drains, pumps, all that kind of thing. So even though it's a very slick, stylish boat, they have thought about the practicalities too. So, 2 cabins on board the Superhawk. This is the forward one, which is envisaged as the master, and it's a little bit noisy in here. They seem to have got the music up. I'll see if I can find a way to turn that down. Oh, it seems to have quietened down. So this is the master cabin. Big hull windows on both sides, nice little opening port sections. Again, lots of detail overhead, and again, they're using this kind of Union Jack style inset into the actual ceiling panel. So much detail. Lovely rounded mouldings here, inset LED lights, big bed, TV in the bulkhead directly opposite the bed. Not a lot of clearance around it, but enough to get round to the other side. USBs with a suede kind of fabric there, so you can put your phone there while it's charging. Pretty decent headroom in here, actually. There's still 4 inches above my head. I'm 6'1". And then ensuite bathroom over on this side. Really good size in here, actually, with a separate shower cubicle. Again, little opening porthole. And there is a door that will come across and shut that. Make sure it stays nice and dry. Toilet, sink, and that gloss back piano with, again, I say piano, sort of glossy back piano kind of surface to it, almost lacquered. And then we move back through this lower saloon area to the mid cabin. And to be honest, this could easily be the master cabin too. So you've got another full beam cabin at the stern. The only difference is that you haven't got a flat floor here, nor a flat ceiling. So here in this section here, again, there's plenty of, really a lot. I've got an entire foot above my head right in this entrance lobby, but you can see that the floor then drops down a step here, and there is a change in the ceiling height here. So just not quite, there is full standing headroom at the foot of the bed, but when you come up to this step, the step goes up and then you have to crouch down. But the key thing is that the bed itself is a full-size king double. We've got windows on both sides, plenty of light down here, plenty of opening portholes. Slightly unusual storage solution here. You can see we've got shelves, but there's only one actual runner, and this is actually magnetic. I'm going to have to grab it with my other hand. You need a bit of a grip, but you can see that slides from one side to the other, but effectively one shelf is always open. Unusual solution. It may well be something that they just decide to offer two separate opening cupboards if you want to, but very much the modern thing at the moment. You have an exposed shelf with your style, in this case the watch book by Rolex. We've got storage cupboards there, and in fact on the other side too. So automatically lit behind, and of course big TV on the bulkhead again. So 2 usable cabins, 2 good sized beds, but what's interesting is that division of space. So relatively confined sleeping spaces in order to leave this really big saloon. And as it's going to be a day boat, that actually makes perfect sense. So there we have it. That is the all-new Sunseeker Superhawk 55. I hope you've enjoyed the tour, but let me know what you make of it in the comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.